Thank you, Inspector. The court will accept the documents as evidence, if you please. A file containing an overview of the case and details about the victim. She was found with a knife in her back and is currently in hospital, yet to regain consciousness. Well, I definitely do have to ask about, like, why Tobias is saying that Olive Green was facing with her back in this direction, and he's like, I guess it kind of depends on, from his perspective, he's probably thinking that the body fell like in this direction, with her head pointed to the south and legs pointed to the north. And in which case, yeah, Olive Green would go right over here, she would walk through here, and in similar fashion, Natsume would come over here, and he would stab Olive Green in the back, just like that, I guess. But you're not entirely sure. Maybe she came from over here. She was right over here, and then she looked back for some unknown reason. Or it could be like different ways of looking at it. I guess we shall see. A young woman rendered unconscious following a stab wound to the back. Olive Green, female, stout build, early 20s. I love that you had to also describe her build as well. Pavement of Briar Road, east side. A rolly beat. He is the reporting officer, it seems. The victim remains unconscious. Her name was gleaned from her personal effects. Other details are unknown. Apart from the single stab wound from the large knife, no other signs of injury were observed. The assailant was seen running away by the reporting officer and was successfully arrested the following day. This rolly beat is the person that saw Soseki. He was with his wife, from what we understood before. So, I have that here. He was removed from the victim's back. Ouch. That big thing is starting to make me scared to walk down the street now. With a heavy blade like that, almost anybody would have been able to stab the poor woman. Even this cragged-looking Soseki-san, I suppose. A common or garden jackknife, I'd say. Rather nondescript. Thank you, Inspector. The court that says the blade is evidence. The jackknife has been entered in the courtroom. Large but commonplace folding knife. It's found lodged in the victim's back. Alright. Let's check this knife right over here. Okay. From what we can tell by looking at the woman's possessions, it seems like she's a poor student herself. Hard to imagine. She could have had anything much worth pinching, my lord. I see. Well, in that case, are we looking at some deep-seated resentment toward the victim? I'm afraid I couldn't say. Apart from visiting second-hand bookshops, the defendant, Miss Natsume, doesn't appear to get out much. At this moment in time, we haven't been able to establish any sort of connection between him and the victim.
Yes!
Yes! If theft and grievance had been ruled out as the motive, what reason could Mr. Natsume possibly have had for stabbing the young woman? Yet you arrested the man in spite of that, in a totally unjustified and heavy-handed way! Oh, Jesus. Calm down there, Ryunosuke. We have like an entire trial over here. You're trying to speed run through this?
Objection!
We haven't even started the cross-examination yet. Oh. You know, that is such a waste of wine, goddammit. Like, you keep throwing chalices and bottles around. What if that actually killed a person, like, right over there? Hey, did anybody get hurt there? Well, you know what? I couldn't even tell because they're probably dead. Dead people wouldn't be able to tell that they got hurt by that, you know, Zeeks. Pray forgive the discourtesy of flinging a freshly uncorked bottle into the public gallery. But the words have sold its hallowed bouquet. For it is you, my learned friend, who is being heavy-handed here. What? Scotland Yard does not arrest people without good cause. That should be beyond question. Like, you're surely giving a lot of credit to the police force. Inspector Gretz, the prosecution calls for your formal testimony. Like, in the alternate timeline, in present time, with Nick and the rest, the only one that I can trust is Gumshoe. Nobody else but Gumshoe on the police force. Other than that, here, well, we're still beginning our relationship with Tobias Gregson, so I guess we shall see as time goes on if he is worthy of my appreciation. Explain to the court precisely why the constabulary came to arrest the Nipponese student. Yes, sir. As I said, it was 5 o'clock in the afternoon when the incident occurred. Now, it was an unusually light fall. Visibility was reasonably good, and there was no one else about the victim and the accused. Out of the blue, the victim was stabbed from behind and subsequently collapsed on the pavement. The accused ran off, scattering his brains. Jesus, scattering his belongings all over the floor. Scattering his brains all over the floor. Yeah, that would be like the worst of luck for Soseki. Those being a number of old books he just bought. He was on his way home from a bookshop, it seems. It was just a matter of working out who the books belonged to, and we found the block to arrest him. Old books, you say? Yes, my lord. I have a photograph here of the scene of crime, taken immediately after the incident. Oh, yes. I can clearly see the books to which you are referring. I will take the photographic print as evidence. Please, Inspector. I wonder if she bought books from the same place that Natsume brought books. I mean, we don't actually see the bookstore like on the map. Let's see. The knife. Yeah, I guess so. I can already discern like any titles on these books from this view. Hat. You Nipponese are a spineless breed. Too cowardly to admit defeat. Denying everything despite overwhelming evidence to the contrary. Well, forgive me, Lord Van Zix, but the defendant is not denying everything, as you put it. What are you doing, Miss Sato? Do go on. Miss Natsume has admitted to playing some part in the incident. Isn't that right, Miss Narado? Well, now that you mention it, when we visited him in the prison yesterday, he did tell us what had all happened. As I was walking along that accursed pavement, I could make out the sole silhouette of another ahead of me. A woman, wearing a green overcoat, she was. And just as I went to overtake her, she suddenly let out a little scream and collapsed under the cold, hard slabs of stone at my feet. Okay, so he did say that he walked along that accursed pavement. So they were on the same pavement. Just as Gregson is saying. I was terrified. I had to get away from there. So I ran, as fast as my legs would carry me back to my accursed lodgings. A green overcoat. Oh, that's exactly what the woman in the print is wearing. Oh my. A photographic print in full color. What will the world come up with next? The defendant has done nothing more than admit he fled the scene of the terrifying incident. That does not mean he's guilty of the heinous crime of stabbing the woman in the back. There was nobody else there at the time. Just the two of them. The victim and the accused. In other words, there is nobody else who possibly have stabbed the woman. Really? Because I can think of at least one other person. Or two, maybe. A fact that accused concedes. Ugh. Since this cross-examination could prove to be pivotal, counsel. Proceed, please. Yes, my lord. Nothing for it. I have to use this cross-examination to turn the tables around. It's our only chance. Alright. First cross-examination of the trial. As of right now, I don't see like anything like popping in my head. Like what? Like anything that just pops in my eyes that is contradictory. So you're saying that there was initially light fog?
Hold it!
A light fog, you say? Well, light for long. You could see the opposite side of the street for once. Not much farther though. That's light, is it? Around these parts, yes. Not something I expect a Japanese fellow like yourself to know, of course. I've read that London is famous for its fog. But in my country, people usually imagine that gives the city... People usually imagine that gives the city a rather beautiful appearance. How quaint. Yes, well, it's not something us Londoners tend to romanticize. As I expect you can appreciate. I see. At this time of year, the fog causes a large number of accidents. Especially when it's heavy. I can imagine that Beppo is going through a lot of accidents when it comes to this sort of stuff. With the fog. And we also have like him freezing his eyelids. Even when he unfreezes his eyelids, he's having problems seeing. Sometimes you can even see your own hand at the end of the arm. Indeed. The other day, I was very nearly trampled by horses before I could see the carriage they were pulling. Ugh. Sato-san and I should definitely remember to stop, look and listen. Remember to look to your right and to your left before you cross the street, kids! However, on the day that concerns us, the fog was somewhat lighter than usual. A fact no doubt lamented by the accused. Visibility was reasonably good, and there was no one else about but the victim and accused.
Hold it!
How are you able to state that with any certainty? Quite simply, my learned friend, because that is what the witnesses to this crime have told us. Ah, yes. Inspector Gregson mentioned the witnesses yesterday, didn't he? That's right. One of them is a policeman, I believe, from Scotland Yard. And more than likely the reporting officer that was told in the evidence. That is correct. Oh. Don't ask it. Put yourself together, man. Like, you're still having problems with that? And we must hear their testimony. Well, I guess so. He still needs to regain his spirits, like, all the way, like 100%, so, yeah, there's that. The Persecution will of course call them to the stand, should it be necessary. But wait a minute. At 5 o'clock in the afternoon, in the middle of winter, it would have been dark already. No matter how light the fog might have been, no one could have seen. I am unaware of the situation on your tiny island to the east. But here in the capital city of Great Britain, all main roads are illuminated at night by gas streetlights. Ah, yeah, you know, I was thinking of that. The prosecution believes there would have been ample light by which to witness the crime. Quiet. Here in London, for the first time in history, mankind has completely conquered the darkness. I don't know about that. I mean, at the very least, in a literal sense, yeah. Which means we really need to hear those witnesses' statements. If I could just get through the fog of this cross-examination, maybe we'll be able to. Seems the counsel for the defense is taking stock. Continue with your testimony, Inspector. Out of the blue, the victim was stabbed from behind and subsequently collapsed on the pavement.
Hold it!
From behind, you say? That's right, as you can see from this print. Yes, quite so, Inspector. The handle of the weapon is clearly protruding from the victim's back. You say this poor woman, Miss Green, remains in a critical condition. Comatose, no less. I'm afraid so, my lord. Yes. She's being treated at Bart's. I was hopeful that she'd come around before the trial started, so I could take a statement. But it wasn't to be. Yeah, that is indeed a pity. It would have been most illuminating to hear the victim's own account of events. Luck is on your client's side, it seems. I don't know about that one. On the contrary, my client has been extremely unlucky. Your force of tone is seriously undermined by those disturbingly wide eyes, I'm afraid. The accused ran off, scattering his belongings all over the floor.
Hold it!
His belongings? I didn't mention it. Yeah. It could very well be that those are Natsmith's books. Like, near the victim. He did buy 3 books in particular. The picture of Monsieur Lecoq, Emile of Gabriel, Canterbury Yearnings. I think you'll find it's all there in the photographic print of the crime scene. Yeah, the 3 books on the floor. That's right, my lord. Second-hand books, they were. Irreparably damaged after falling in the snow, of course. The accused could easily have carried all 3 books in one hand. Which means his other hand would have been free to wield a knife, for example. Okay, well, I do have to ask you, Tobias Gregson. How are you 100% sure that those are actually Soseki's books? What if they were Green's books that she bought? Maybe it's because they actually checked Green for her receipt right over here that shows her own books that she bought, that she'll probably still have in her handbag right over here. So yeah, they would conclude that those are actually Soseki's books because those are books that are not brought by Green. He's very clever, isn't he? What do you mean? It's made it extremely hard for you to assert that Mr. Natsmith had his hands full with his books. Yeah, that is true. He's managed to close the one avenue of escape we might have had before we even knew it was there. He would have been an easy one, nonetheless, so clearly wouldn't have been it. You meant to say the defendant was holding his belongings as he thrust the knife into the woman's back. That must be what happened, my lord. Yes. Those being a number of old books he just bought. He was on his way from a bookshop, it seems.
Hold it!
Okay, I am curious about this. The defendant apparently visits a second-hand bookshop on a daily basis. Yep, so I understand. A shop full of old English literature. I commend the accused on the lofty subject matter of his scholarly attention. The bloke's room was stacked floor to ceiling with those musty old books. Can you tell us more about the bookshop in question, please, Inspector? Like, can you actually point the bookstore, like, here on the map, if you can? Well, if I must. I have to ask you to look at the street map again, alright. The closest second-hand bookshop to the accused lodgings is this place here. Bourbon Books. Bourbon Books? A little place on the corner of Briar Road, in Mersham Street. As it happens, the accused is currently living in lodgings on the other side of Briar Road, at the opposite end. Which means it doesn't take a genius to work out the route he would have taken home. So you're saying that he came from Bourbon Books, I say, eh? Something like this. Okay. It has been updated. Yes. I concur with your conclusion, Inspector. The defendant would certainly have passed the scene of the crime on his way home from that particular shop. Miss Naradon, I think that what the Inspector just told us could turn out to be of vital importance. Yeah, you don't need to tell us twice, Susato-san. Yeah, I agree. And the most important point that the Inspector just made being... It is, the bookshop's name. Inspector Gregson, may I ask you a favor? I mean, you are saying that he came from Bourbon Books. That he actually bought the books from there. However, there is a receipt that we found in Soseki's room that says that he bought 3 books from your books. And I can definitely say that that is the name of the bookstore that he bought. The name of the bookstore he bought the books from is your books, not Bourbon Books. So, I don't know. If you investigated the room, Gregson, you surely must have found this, right? How come you didn't find that receipt? And you can just blatantly assume that he bought those books from Bourbon Books just because it was really close to the lodgings. How can you say that? What? Would you kindly add the name of the bookshop to your formal testimony, please? I believe it may be of vital importance. Maybe? Oh, well, you know. I mean, yes, it could very well be important. I mean, it could be a very important clue. Very well. Not that I can see it being of any great significance. But please revise your testimony accordingly, Inspector. Yes, sir, my lord. Whatever you say. Can it be any more sardonic? I mean, could he also be any more wrong than that? He was on his way from Bourbon Books, a second-hand book shop he apparently patronizes.
Hold it!
He asked for the help of the famous detective Herlock Sholmes to locate the defendant, I believe. Stop that nonsense. Sorry. That Jack in office, that busybody, just comes and sticks his arm in whether we ask him or not. But according to what I have here, Mr. Sholmes was shown to the scene by Scotland Yard detectives. Well, that was nothing to do with me. The lads at the scene must have done it. Without my permission. I tell him time and again, whenever something happens, send word to headquarters. Then follow your blooming instructions. I see. If that never gets his hands on any details, we'll all be reading it in Rand's magazine next month. And you can bet your last farthing that I'll be there too, striped of all my hard work on the case. Like Sherlock Holmes going on his own adventures, while I'm going on my own. And they're not even gonna detail my own adventures. Yes, Mr. Holmes. No, Mr. Holmes. Aren't you clever, Mr. Holmes? That's all the thanks I'll be getting. Inspector, if the man is proving the detrimental to the ward to the yard's detective, if the man is proving detrimental to the yard's activities, perhaps I should step in and deal with him. Please don't say that about Sherlock Holmes. It appears Inspector Gregson is not for warrants. Yeah, the Reaper's words carry a lot of weight, obviously. Anyway, the point is, that old Japanese blocks already admitted it. He's admitted that those books all over the pavement at the scene were the ones he bought that day. What do you think, Miss Naruto? If you're unable to sway the jury during this cross-examination, I'm afraid that Mr. Nutsmith's fate will be sealed. Yeah, they're sure to find him guilty. So, one way or another, I have to expose an undeniable inconsistency in the inspector's testimony. Yeah, and I think we already got it. Let me go here, Bourbon Books, present my own evidence as contradictory evidence to his statement over here, and bada bing, bada boom, we're done. If I could just stop you there, Inspector Gregson. What is it, Sunshine? I'm a busy man, you know. Oh, we do have some stuff to say over here, Moon Pie. This is a receipt that we found in Mr. Nutsmith's room. It was issued on the day of the incident, and details the purchase of 3 second-hand books. And you found that in the accused room, did you? Yes, but the point is not where the receipt was found, but the name of the shop printed on it. Go on. This receipt was issued from a bookshop called Your Books. I love Zeke's response over there. Like he knows that Ryonosuke has an objection over here, and he wants him to just go on with it. Your Books? E-O-R-E, I presume. No, it's Y-O-R-E. Mr. Natsume did indeed purchase a number of books at a second-hand bookshop that day. However, the bookshop in question was not Bourbon Books. Eh? What? Inspector, do you know this other bookshop? Yes, sir. Your Books is another second-hand bookshop not far from Bourbon Books. It's just that... well, it's such a small place, I didn't think the accused would have known about it. It's not a matter of not being known or not. He should have known. Because of the receipt in his room. You should have investigated as well.
Objection!
In fact, that is the bookshop which defendant visited on the day in question. And this receipt proves it. I mean, you know, with someone like Soseki, it would make sense that he would go to a much smaller bookstore. Because the smaller the bookstore is, the less people are gonna be there. And Soseki is surely of the shy type that he would love a place like that.
Objection!
Yes, for what difference it makes. Wherever the man purchases musty stones, it makes no difference in the final analysis. It very well can be. It depends on where this bookstore is.
Objection!
I disagree. I mean, after all, I have the street map here, if that might be of help. Yes. Thank you. Have a look at this, please. If the defendant had been returning from bourbon books, then yes, he would almost certainly have passed the place where Miss Green was attacked. However, if we take into account the fact that he was actually at another bookshop, your books, it may well turn out that he wouldn't have passed that location at all. Could that be true? My. It rather depends on where this other bookshop is, but I do declare it may be a possibility. Is that right, Mr. Lawyer, sir? What he just said? Absolutely. Absolutely could be right. Inspector Gregson, where is this your books establishment? Well, obviously we looked into that. It turns out that your books is just here on the next corner of Mersham Street, going east. Oh. It is interesting. And there you have it. As you can clearly see now. Well, as I mentioned before, Soseki did say that he looked at Green on that same pavement. So, well, I guess it kind of depends on the time. Like, he would go the same route on his way home. And I guess it depends on the timing. I guess we shall see. Oh. My Lord Nipponese friend is obviously in training to be a clown. The way he regales us with such witticism. To your future career in the circus. To your complete idiocy. Honk honk. You put that glass down now. I'll put it down for you. Didn't think I needed to spell it out, but here we go. The accused was coming home from your books instead of boredom books. There's no doubt he still would have passed the place where the victim was stabbed. Well, I was thinking that, but you know, he could have gone the other way around. Given the geometry of this, it certainly... It feels like it would have taken a little bit longer, but I don't know how much longer, to be quite honest. If it was a perfect square, then it would have taken him just as much. If it was in that corner. Or he could have just gone... Or he could have just gone in between the buildings. Like, the fact that, like, if you were to think of Bourbon Books, he would have no need to go in between buildings. He was on the same pavement. But if we're talking about your books, maybe it would have been easier to actually go in between buildings. In fact, that would actually take a lot less time, actually. Maybe that's how it all happened. But in which case... I guess it kind of depends on Soseki's wording. Because he was talking as if he was on the same pavement. But... Allow me to reiterate for my learning. You're somewhat slow, Nipponese friend. Wherever the man purchases mistletoes, it makes no difference in the final analysis. As I suspected, you cannot fool me, and I don't suggest you try. What did I say, eh? I've had enough of this now. Beg your pardon? Terribly sorry, but would you mind repeating that? Sourdough, mustn't give up. What do you mean? That we mustn't give up. What part of that sentence do you not understand? If the prosecution's assertion is correct, then the members of the jury may very well decide that Mr. Natsume is guilty. Ah, she's absolutely right. We must think. We must consider the assertion just put forward by the prosecution very, very carefully. The claims of Seki-san must have passed the location of the incident on his way home from your books, but... I'm gonna raise an objection for this one. The assertion just made by the prosecution is fundamentally flawed. Explain yourself, counsel. Yes, my lord. You can see what I mean on this map. When returning from your book to his lodgings, Mr. Matsume could have followed the road suggested by the prosecution. However, as I thought of before, you could go in between buildings, or on the other way around. However, that isn't the only conceivable route to take between the two places. If the defendant used these streets, look what happens. He arrives back at his lodgings without passing the location where the victim was attacked.
Objection!
Talking back to a clown is a fool's errand, of course. However, I feel compelled to point out that route is what is commonly referred to as the long way round. On a cold winter's night, why would any man choose to take a longer road home? Well, the answer is extremely simple. He wouldn't. In other words, the accused took the obvious road back to his lodgings, and is the obvious perpetrator of this crime.
Objection!
But... Okay, I got it. Obviously, you must ask the man himself. Ask Mr. Natsume which route he took home. I have already informed the court of the accused's response to such questioning. He claims he has no recollection. Natsume. Eh? That's right. As I said, the dog seems to spend his time outside wandering aimlessly from A to B. That day was no exception. He says he doesn't remember where he was or which route he took home. Well, I guess there's that, at least. I don't believe this. I thank you, my learned friend, for entertaining us with your clown antics. How about you go back home to your circus? And suggest that we do not waste any more of the court's time by wandering aimlessly around the subject. Pray, what say you insightful jurors? But even if that is the case, the defense still... I agree with Lord Von Six. Wholeheartedly. And in every word. What? I don't believe it. Does this mean... We members of the jury are completely convinced though. Very well. In the case, I hereby call upon all members of the jury to present your findings to the court.
Guilty!
Guilty.
Guilty!
Guilty.
Guilty! Guilty!
It appears the jury's leaning is unanimous. Okay, well, you know what needs to be done, Ryunosuke. Ryunosuke? Okay, don't pretend to be dead. Come on. We have stuff to do. To the insightful members of the jury, I applaud your brave resolve. You serve Queen and country admirably. It's now done. No, not yet. This isn't over yet. I still have one last chance to sway the opinion of the jury. I have to tip the balance of those scales the other way. I have to turn this around. Somehow. Those are the eyes of quarry, not yet willing to give up and die. More like he resurrected from the dead just a second ago. I was feeling his soul leaving his body there for a second while he was down there. It surely must not have been a pleasant experience for him, I can tell you. So I presume you intend to wield your rights again in this trial. Rights of the defense written into antiquated British law that should have been buried long ago. Call it antiquated. Call it antiquated, if you will. But it's defense's prerogative to carry out a submission examination, if it so chooses. Very well, counsel. In accordance with the letter of the law, we shall proceed with a submission examination. Are the members of the jury ready, Mr. Foreman? Of course we're ready. I'm all too familiar with that Nepalese whippersnapper and his uncle's refusal to throw in his alley. Something tells me that our friend over here, Bruce Fairplay, is going to be a bit of a challenge in comparison to the rest. Very well done. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you will each explain on what grounds you have determined the defendant to be guilty. Alrighty then. What's it gonna be, folks? What are your reasons for your decision? For pity's sake. That little Nipponese already admitted it himself, didn't he?
If he said that a woman in green collapsed before his eyes, why can only have been the victim?
The man wouldn't have gone around the houses on his way back from the bookshop. Not in winter.
So the poor woman was attacked from behind, was she? How dreadful.
I really don't care. Can we just wrap this up now? I've got work to be doing. Your books. Yes, nice shop, that. The bourbon books? No, not worth a visit. With only minor exceptions, the reasons for finding the defendant guilty are all too clear. When the stabbing occurred, the only two people at the scene were the victim and the accused. And the accused himself has admitted to seeing the victim in her green overcoat sink to the ground before his eyes. Furthermore, we have heard from the inspector that the defendant then fled the scene. I must say, I would have ample grounds to convict this man already.
Oh dear. Even the judge appears convinced of Mr. Natsman's guilt now.
Why did he have to run away like that? How are we supposed to believe in some phantom attacker that nobody could see? This is impossible. How can I possibly make a case for the defense?
Miss Naradol, this is no time for grumbling. If you want to force the trial to continue.
Yeah, I know. I have to turn the tide. I must make the jurors change their minds. Well, 4 of them at least.
Exactly. We have no choice but to forge forward.
You have the floor, counsel. Begin your summation examination. Alright? We have the floor for ourselves for a little bit of dance-off. Yes, my lord. Just need to keep this child going somehow. Whatever it takes. Come on, Renosuke. You can do it.